Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel many times before. Now I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, a good few different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery I would say that they are pretty solid all around, although their focus seems to be really more on kind of German style lager beers, and if you know the history of this brewery you will understand why. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one that I've had from them many times before, one of my personal favourites from this brewery in fact, but I just never got around to doing an actual video review of this one. So nice to kind of finally tick the box of this one, I guess you could say. But I do have a few beers to work through from these guys over the next few videos, so keep your eyes peeled for those. But yeah, this one is a style that I very much enjoy, one that I don't get to review all that often, and one that you don't find all that often out here in Asia in fact. So needless to say, I'm very curious to try this beer again because it has been a little while. Hopefully it's as good as I remember, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then we are going to head over to Hong Kong Island. We're going to go to a place called Wong Chuk Hang in the south of the island. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Young Master Brewery. So this particular beer is simply called Fest Beer. It comes in at 5.5% ABV, and this one is a German style Märzen Lager. So yeah, this is a can that I've had for a couple of months, but it kind of got pushed to the back of the fridge and forgotten about, but it should still be in pretty good condition. I have had cans of these that have been around this age before. I think this one will be about 5 or 6 months old at the time of filming. But yeah, this beer can hold up pretty damn well actually. But yeah, this is one that I always look forward to. They tend to release this beer in September, or I think they usually actually release it on the 1st of October, but I think I've had it in can in September before if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this is a yearly release from them, and it is of course to celebrate the Oktoberfest. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Young Master Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the fairly near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things, and that's being added quite regularly because that is of course where I'm based. But do check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Young Master Brewery once again then. First time in about 6 months, just going by the channel archive. But yeah, Young Master was founded back in 2013 by Rohit Dugar, who is originally from New Delhi over in India. But he moved from New York, having worked in the financial sector. He moved from New York to Hong Kong in 2011, and he was working for Goldman Sachs before he kind of got tired of the rat race and decided to quit and found his own microbrewery. But he was joined at the brewery by German brewer Ulrich Altbauer, who had quite an extensive experience of brewing in China, and he was the original master brewer for Young Master, which is the main reason they went in a kind of German direction with their beers. But he sadly died in 2016, and the current brew team is Edwin and Brian, who have both worked at the brewery for quite a long time. So their first brewery was in Ap Lai Chau, and this facility had a 10 hectolitre brew house, and this acted as their main production facility until mid-2016, and then they opened up a new brewery in Wong Chuk Hang with a 40 hectolitre brew house from GEA in Germany, as well as a larger barrel aging area and also a fodder for producing sour beers. And this was the first for any brewery in Asia. These guys were the first ones to have one of these big oak fodders, and apparently it was just as they were about to start production in this new facility when Ulrich died, so it was quite a difficult time for the brewery when they were just getting started on this bigger production facility. But these days they're apparently brewing around 15,000 litres of beer per month, but that figure is from quite a wee while ago, so I'll probably need to ask them and see if I can update that. But these days they also produce highballs under the brand Higher Than, and those seem to be quite popular, and they recently launched a beer called Young Master Grand, which seems to be their take on a kind of premium lager, or macro beer if you like, which is to be sold in restaurants around Hong Kong. I think they're wanting to kind of compete with Blue Girl and sort of spread their branding a bit, which is quite a smart idea considering the climate of the economy at the moment. But these days they've got several tap rooms and restaurants. This includes TAP, the Ale Project in Mong Kok, which many regard as one of the kind of founding bars of the craft beer scene, I guess you could say, in Hong Kong. They've got Second Draft at Victoria Park, which is my favourite one that they have, and they've also got Pub 1842 in Central. They previously had Alvy's Pizza in Kennedy Town, which I really liked. I was sad when that shut down. They also had the Guild down in Singapore, and there was another TAP venue here in Hong Kong up at Tsuen Wan, which I forget if that's New Territories or if that's still Kowloon. But yeah, today they are the largest craft brewery by volume in Hong Kong, and also the most decorated of the Hong Kong breweries as well, from what I understand, although that might change because there's loads of award ceremonies going on at the moment. But as of April 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 300 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. They now employ about 20 people, and they do some really solid stuff actually. I really enjoy the Young Master beers. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Young Master Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So this one, I have to say, one thing I would recommend that Young Master do would be to release this in the 440 milliliter cans, as they did with their Pilsner about a year ago, I think that was now. Because yeah, this beer, it's, you know, you'll drink this and you'll want more of it. That's one of the things. So I would recommend that they switch to 440s or half-litre cans for this one. But yeah, plain silver top on the can there. It always tells you on the side here, they always have a few Chinese characters with some English, or in this case German, to describe the beer. So they've got frisch, klar und vollmundiges, which means, I think vollmundiges I think is like full-bodied, frisch is fresh, and klar is clear, obviously. But yeah, this one, yeah, they've got the blue, we call that Czechs. Of course, if you've seen the Bavarian state colours from Germany, it's usually blue and white. But yeah, the Märzen as a style is the kind of traditional Oktoberfest lager, if you like. I think at 5.5%, this one is slightly lighter than a lot of the ones you'll find in Germany. Most of them tend to be like 6 or 6.5, I think. So this one is brewed just to be that little bit lighter. But yeah, basically the reason this style is called Märzen is because, oh, the camera's kind of moved a little bit there. I don't know why it does that. But yeah, the reason they call this style Märzen is that, you know, back in the day in Germany, before we had artificial refrigeration and things like that, what they used to do was they would only brew between about, I think it was September or October, and then March. So the Märzens that were used in October were actually brewed in March. Then they would ferment in the rock cellars until October, and that's why the beer was stronger. But the Oktoberfest started in Munich because, if I remember rightly, it was the son of the Duke of Bavaria at the time got married, and it was basically a big party was held by the Duke for his son, and he invited a lot of the locals and stuff like this, and it just carried on year after year, and it became a tradition. So that's kind of how it all started. So a little bit about the Märzen for you, and a little bit about the history of Oktoberfest. I forget what year it was that it started, but it's well over 100 years, could be nearer 200 years actually. But yeah, as I say, this one is a 5.5% Märzen lager. Märzens tend to be kind of caramelly and sort of biscuity lager beers. Of course, in the Czech Republic you have the Letzák style, which is quite similar, but of course Czech lagers tend to be a little bit more smooth, bready and yeasty lean, whereas the German lagers tend to be a little bit more kind of crisp and clean. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see how we go. For those of you who are not, well, for those of you who don't know, the definition of a lager is a beer that uses bottom fermenting yeast, basically cold temperature fermentation. It ferments between like between 6 to 8 degrees Celsius, sorry, 8 to 12 degrees Celsius, my bad, whereas you've got ales which ferment at between 15 and 16 degrees Celsius. But yeah, I have to say this looks very nice. You can see it's pretty cold because of the condensation on the glass there. But yeah, plain, well, not really plain, that head has faded away quite quickly, but you could see that when the beer poured, it poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would have said kind of creamy, slightly beige coloured head there, and you can see this beer is giving you pretty much the colour that you would expect of an Oktoberfest Märzen. This one, yeah, you can see tiny little, there's one or two tiny little bits of sediment particle in there, but this one looks pretty much as you would expect of it fresh as well, so that's pretty good. As I say, this beer tends to hold up quite well. I have had cans of this one that have been 3 or 4 months old, but this one that I'm drinking is 6 months old, so I'm quite curious to see how this one is going to hold up. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, quite a few coming up toward the surface, which you kind of want with the lager. You want a decent amount of carbonation. But colour wise, I would describe this one as being a nice kind of rich sort of orangey amber. It's almost the same colour as like a West Coast, American West Coast IPA in a way, but again, that's what you'd expect. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But that can change from, you know, with lagers, you don't often have to care about those latter 2 variables, as I mentioned. But yeah, I don't think we need to say anything else about the appearance of this one. I think we can go on and have a little look at the aroma, and as I say, quite curious to see how this beer will have held up. Still smells good, and I have to say, that's one of the things I love about Young Master, is that when it comes to their lager beers, they do have a lot of originality to them. When I have a good lager beer, I want it to taste as it would if I was in Germany. I miss, you know, drinking the lager beers in Germany, and you know, I want to go back to Czech Republic and try more of their stuff as well. But yeah, the aroma of this one is absolutely lovely. It gets a big thumbs up from me. Gives you everything you want. You've got the bready notes, the sweetness, and just that little bit of hoppy character to it as well. I could sit and smell this all day, honestly. Absolutely love it. So yeah, in terms of the aroma of this beer, then let's just break it down and describe it for you more in depth. So the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely sort of fresh, kind of wholemeal, brown bready, maybe even slightly rye bready bread crust in this one. So you've got that lovely kind of fresh bread crusty character in there. There's a little bit of woodiness to the beer as well. So yeah, lovely little bit of woody character in there. That is nice. Yeah, so lovely little bit of woody character in there. You've got a little bit of cracker as well. There is like an almost kind of sweet rye bread to this one, as I say, but it's more like I think Pumpernickel is the one that, yeah, Pumpernickel is the German bread, the German brown bread that's always quite sweet and things like that. I miss the German bread. My time in Heidelberg, I ate far too much of it, but I really enjoyed it. So yeah, the aroma of this one is lovely. That big German bready backbone I could sit and smell all day. There's just something about the German malts, you know, you just get that slight dryness out of them, but also the kind of big malty sweetness. And I really do enjoy that when it comes to these lager beers. But yeah, on top of the kind of sweet brown bready character, you get a little bit of that toasty, kind of caramelly note coming out of this one. More like, yeah, it's more kind of toasty caramelly. You get some sweet caramel notes out of it as well, but you also get quite a lot of that McVitie's digestive biscuity character coming out of this one as well. So yeah, the way that everything goes together in that regard, I think, is is really nice as well. Yeah, I like that about this one for sure. So yeah, on the malty side of things, I think we've said everything we really need to. The yeasty side of this beer is pretty much as you would expect. You've got a little bit of the, you've got quite a little bit of more kind of sweet brown bread in there. There's a little bit of that kind of oily rye bready character as well. And yeah, the way that all of that goes together is really quite nice. For me, the yeasty side of things, yeah, more brown bready, a little bit more crackery character to it, and I see a wee bit of bread crust. But at that, I think we've covered everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. So the hoppy side of things then, let's have a little look at that. And I will say the hops have held up fairly well in this beer too. Remember, these lagers will tend to use Hallertau or Tettnang, like Mittelfrüh type hops, mid-spring. So they're not the most pungent of beers in terms of hoppy character, but it's got that typical smooth German earthiness to it from the hops. There's that little bit of almost kind of woody, herbally character too, and you've got the nice floral aromaticity and a lovely kind of bright, you've got a lovely sort of bright grassiness coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is really, really nice in that regard. The hoppy character gives you kind of everything you would expect of this style, to be honest. So yeah, the fruity side of things then. For me, fruity side of this beer is kind of what you'd expect. You've got quite a lot of sort of oily pear, maybe even a little bit of like a datey character, you know, pears, sultanas, maybe like a little touch of I don't know, is dried apricot a good way to describe this one? So yeah, a little bit of pear, dried apricot, yeah, oily pear, dried apricot, sultanas, things like that. So yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So, as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think we've said everything we really need to about the aroma of this one. So yeah, let's have a taste of this now and see what it's all about. So this is one of my favourite Young Master beers, the Fest beer, 5.5% ABV, a Märzen Lager from Young Master. Lovely German style brewery, can we say that, in Wong Chuk Hang on the south of Hong Kong Island. Let's get stuck in. Slange, Skål, cheers, Prost. Oh yeah, that's still in really nice condition. I really don't know what's going on with this camera. It's quite annoying actually. But yeah, that's still in really, really nice condition. I will say it feels a little touch more oily at this point than I remember it being fresh, but it's still, the flavour profile is still bang on, and the hops are still coming out quite nicely as well, because you would expect the hops to drop away a little bit after this length of time. But yeah, this beer does go together really pretty damn nicely, so big thumbs up to Young Master for this. It kind of shows you the quality of the stuff they're doing, and this beer really gives you everything that you would want flavour wise from a Märzen Lager. Yeah, lovely bready backbone, nice sweet caramel notes, little touch of hoppy character, and that wee bit of oily fruit to it as well. So yeah, very good stuff. So yeah, let's just break this beer down then and describe it for you more in depth, as we always do. So middle third of your palate then, the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely kind of fresh brown bready bread crust there. As you move further forward along that middle third of your palate, you get a nice little touch of kind of woodiness which comes out of the beer into the aftertaste. Above that, you've got a nice kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of layer to it. So yeah, there's a Jacob's cream crackery kind of layer in there. yeah, the bread crust is underneath the Jacob's cream cracker, then you've got that little bit of woodiness to it as well. And then I think above that, you've got sort of 2 layers of bread, in honesty. So there's a layer further down that feels a little bit more kind of like oily and rye bready, but then above that you've got a more above that you've got a layer that feels a little bit more like a kind of wholemeal brown bread. It just feels that little bit drier. So yeah. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So yeah, kind of bread crust, wood, cracker, more rye bready character, the more sweet kind of German pumpernickel wholemeal brown bready character. Then you start to get the layers of brown sugar out of this one. So you've got a little kind of toasty layer. Yeah, you've got a layer of kind of toasty caramel in there, some nice sweet, yeah, there's some nice kind of sweet, yeah, there's some nice sort of sweet, more oily, kind of brown sugars in there as well. So like down in the dead centre of your palate, you've got that really sweet, oily caramel coming out of this one, which is of course the alcohol coming out of the beer. But that circle is kind of surrounded by a more kind of McVitie's Digestive biscuity sort of note. So yeah, sweet oily caramel, McVitie's Digestive biscuit around the edge, and then underneath, yeah, you have more of, yeah, you've definitely got more of a kind of toasty caramel there. So yeah, the middle, yeah, the middle layer, the middle third of your palate on this one is really nice, and again, pretty much what you would expect. So yeah, I'm just finding this beer, it's a little bit more oily than I remember it being. Fresh, but still very, very enjoyable. So that's the middle third of your palate. Then let's go to the back third of your palate. As I've often said, the sweeter flavours tend to come out further forward on your palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. And generally speaking, between middle and back third of your palate, you have, you know, you've got very similar flavours, but they come out just at different intensities. So yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the kind of more rye, sort of heavier brown bready character underneath, the more kind of pumpernickel, sweet brown bread in the middle, then a wee bit of the kind of drier biscuity character on top. But the base of that back third of your palate, you can feel the white bready bread crust coming out of this one. Above that you've got the Jacob's cream crackery sort of notes. Then yeah, you've got the more rye bready, the heavier brown sort of rye bready type character in there, which feels a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. Then above that you've got the sweeter, more pumpernickel type white bready character, sorry, brown bready character coming out of this one. And then yeah, above that you can feel some of the toasty, you can feel, yeah, some of the more kind of toasty, biscuity elements coming out of this one, which is again pretty damn nice. Yeah, I really do like that about I like that about this beer. And then yeah, you've got the yeasty character above everything else. So let's have a little look at that yeasty side of things. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me, it's kinda at its core, it's like a very dense, very kind of sweet pumpernickel brown bread, and it just feels like as you go further out from that core of yeasty character on the top of the back third of your palate, it feels a little bit more kind of like a wholemeal brown bread almost. And yeah, the very edge of it is a little bit more of a kind of straight up brown bready bread crust. So the yeasty character in this one, that lingers into the aftertaste, and it does give the beer a wee bit more dryness. And that is one of the things I would say the difference in with this one in comparison to the German ones would be, the German ones are just that little touch drier and more crisp. This one's quite oily and a bit more wet in a sense, but the flavour profile is pretty much bang on, although you can see the condensation around my glass. Maybe I've kept this one just a little bit too cold. That could be another thing that's going on here. But anyway, back third of your palate, as I say, you can definitely feel the flavours taller, and then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, then with this one, you've got a nice little bit of you've got a nice little bit of earthy character in there, and then as you move further forward, it's a little bit slightly woody and herbal, and as you push further forward along the toward the front corners of your palate, you can feel it's a little bit more floral and aromatic. But yeah, round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is definitely that little bit lighter and grassy, and it's quite a bright grassiness, as you often get from the German noble hops. So yeah, good stuff. Again, I always enjoy these Young Master lager beers. But let's look at the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things, just to round off this review. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there, the sort of more rye bready characters in the base almost. I say rye bread, but it's not actually rye that's in this one, it just feels like slightly more dense like rye bread. But then above that, yeah, you get the more wholemeal brown bready character, then you've got a bit more of the toasty brown sugar on top. But yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, it's got a little bit more of a kind of white, it's got, yeah, more of a white bready bread crust in there. The bread crust almost does feel a little bit more white bready, but then yeah, the more dense brown bread, the sweeter brown bread above that, then yeah, more of a toasty, like a more oily, caramelly and sort of toasty brown sugary character coming out of this one. Then yeah, above that you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's look at that fruity side of things just to round off then. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer for me, it's kind of similar to what I was describing from the aroma, in all honesty. If you go toward the back of that, front third of your palate, you have there's like sort of sultana type flavours in there, kind of dry apricot as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate. Then I feel the front half is a little bit more kind of peary in a sense. So yeah, sultanas, apricot, dried apricot and pear and stuff like that are the things really kind of coming out of this beer. So yeah, the fruity side of this one I think is it's really, really nice. Yeah, I like that with this one. I really do like how that pieces together. The fruity side of this one, that kind of builds the oiliness of the beer. This is, yeah, really quite an oily Märzen. So I think on this note we can move on from the flavour section to the mouthfeel just to round off. So for me, this beer, it's kind of bottom end of mid-bodied, top end of light-bodied. The carbonation's very, very smooth in this one. It feels very clean, but at the same time it's quite oily, and you get a wee bit of dryness out of it into the aftertaste. I think this is a fairly standard sort of 20-ish IBU, which is normal for this style. The malt base, as we see, has a bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and a kind of drier sweetness on top. You've got a little bit of the kind of dryness from the yeasty side of the beer too, and the kind of smooth, nice sweetness that you get out of this one. And yeah, the fruity character, I think, goes together really well in this one as well. So yeah, gets a big thumbs up from me, this beer. I really like how this how everything pieces together in this one. But yeah, really, really nice Märzen lager. This, I think it's got a little bit more oily over the time it's been in the can. But this is a solid beer from Young Master. The only thing I'd recommend is that they do this in the 440 milliliter cans. Maybe that's something to look at in the future. But yeah, really, really like this one, and I'd highly recommend that you have a go at it if you get the chance. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you, or everything we really need to say about this beer. This one was the Fest beer, a 5.5% Märzen lager from the wonderful Young Master Brewery in Wong Chuk Hang on Hong Kong Island here in the Hong Kong SAR. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Young Master Brewery as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the near future. I do have maybe 2 or 3 beers that I need to work my way through from these guys over the next wee bit, so keep your eyes peeled for those. But until then, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Young Master's social media, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Ciao just now.